workhorse, the 747-8 cargo craft, because demand for air freight is down. And it's good to be the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase. Jamie Dimon got a 35% pay raise last year, taking home $27 million. Tom Busby, CNBC.
I just feel like something's missing.
I know. What we had was so big.
And warm and bright.
And yellow.
Oh, I really miss the sun.
No sun? No problem. Centrum, the most trusted multivitamins, now have more of the vitamin D3 you need. Get the vitamin D you could be missing this winter with Centrum multivitamins. Now our highest level of D3 ever.
This Valentine's Day, give the gift that costs less than roses and lasts forever. Name a star after someone you love. I'm Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. Call 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com and tell that special someone how much you care. For $54, we will send a beautiful personalized gift, and the new star name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Make it a Valentine's Day you will treasure forever. Call 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com and give the gift of a star.
What have I learned so far? I've learned that dropping out of high school was my decision, but as a single mom, that decision affected more than just me. To set an example, I had to be the example. I found a free high school diploma program at Learn for Life that fits around my busy life. I have a team of teachers, tutors, and counselors that really care. I learn at my pace in an environment that is safe and comfortable. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I can change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Keith Langlots. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low 51. Daytime Friday, mostly sunny, warming up 20 degrees to a high 71. Friday night, slight chance of showers, partly cloudy with a low 50. We start the weekend Saturday, a good chance of showers, the high 62. Saturday night, still a good chance of showers, mostly cloudy, a low 43. Sunday, mostly sunny, high 63. Sunday night, we finish the weekend mostly clear, a low 44. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA 106.5 FM and 1050 AM, the stations that leave no listener behind.
Your application looks great, but I'm not seeing any marketing experience.
The ad said mechanic needed.
Right, but I need a mechanic/marketing wizard. What do you know about reputation management?
Nothing.
Search engine optimization?
Is that under the hood?
Let Dex Media be your marketing department. We can help with any digital marketing solution from search to social. Contact Dex Media, that's DEX Media, to get found, get chosen, and get talked about. Call 844-230-3436 or visit dexmedia.com today.
Did you know Cover California can help you find a low-cost quality healthcare plan that's absolutely right for you and your family? Did you know there's coverage for unexpected emergencies and everyday aches and pains? Did you know free preventative care like blood pressure and cholesterol screenings are also provided to stop small problems from getting bigger? Well, now you know.
It's more than just healthcare. It's life care. Visit CoverageCA.com to find free, local, in-person help or enroll online. Enroll by January 31st to avoid the IRS tax penalty.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about
Well, good afternoon and welcome to a happy Thursday from the mountains to the deserts to the oceans to all across America and back to wonderful San Bernardino. This is Rob Starr, one of your co-hosts, along with
Mike. Oh, wait, am I supposed to wait for it?
You're supposed to wait. Mike is mobile today, so he's calling in. So along with my co-host, who is not radical, rash, rebellious, repugnant, repulsive, revolting, or revengeful, but he is rational, reverent, remarkable, reserved, refined, realistic, resourceful, responsible, reassuring, and reliable. Wait a minute, I think I was resourceful, but that's okay. Mr. Mike Barron. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thank you very much, Rob. And, since your first name starts with R, all those things that you said about me with the R word apply to you as well, because you are a special guy. And I appreciate all that you do to make this show interesting and informative.
Well, I appreciate that. But I'm here at the helm. I'm in control of all the dials and buttons and everything. And you're on the freeway, I think, right?
That's right. I'm here, and I'm just thinking. Did you know? Just one quick fact I got to share with you is while Northern California is above average in rainfall, above average in snowpack, Southern California is below average.
Yes.
But the good news is that February and March combined tend to be the big 2 months when El Nino causes rain to occur in Southern California. So just because we haven't seen as much rain as maybe everyone was expecting, be patient because it's going to get here.
That's what they tell us. Well, the statewide summary for the snow water equivalents in inches, for the percent of normal for this state, we're at 113%.
Yep.
In the south, we're 96%. In the central area, 117%, and 124% in the north. But what's interesting, I don't know if you know, state water regulators are willing to reduce conservation goals for municipalities. And depending on the population, climate, and investment in new local supplies, last year Governor Brown, as we both know, called for a 25% overall drop in water use. Individual water agencies face conservation targets ranging from 84% to 36%. And we always said we were open to some adjustments if we had a little bit of time, said Brown and Felicia Marcus. So that's happening. And also there's some dangerous conditions in Los Angeles because they're unprepared to protect its growing homeless population from the dangers of El Nino. So that's going to be another a big issue that's going to happen, actually not only in L.A., but all over the state.
That's right. And, the interesting thing about those adjustments to the water reduction goals is that even though they are planning to make some adjustments, they're going to set a cap. They're going to set a limit of no more than an 8% drop if they've increased in population, if they've established better water reserves for the future. The most that they can go from is like a 36% to 28%, or from 32% to 24%, which is pretty significant. So, it just shows that the State Water Resources Control Board is willing to listen and take into consideration changes in the weather forecast. So, again, the drought is not over. It's not officially over. It's not over in terms of the rain year. So let's keep being efficient.
I hope you're not holding on to the phone when you're driving.
Well, hey, listen, I am excited to share what our next guest is going to talk to us about. You know him well. I know him well. He's a man of much experience and a man that actually grew up in the green industry.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
Absolutely. But before we get to him, I just want to remind the audience they can call in at 909-888-5222 or long distance at 888-909-1050. And if you can't reach us by any of those, and listen to the show on 1050 AM or 106.5 FM, you can always use your computer and go to www.kcaaradio.com. And as we mentioned last week, Mike and I, we started this contest, and just to reiterate what it is, you have to be able to guess what your rainfall is going to be for the month of February, and you have to send in to www.torowatersmart.com your name, what city you live in, and what you expect the rainfall to be for February. But you can't enter past February 15th. And Mike, I know
Right.
I know you're
Hey,
gonna go ahead.
And I got to just say, what we are looking for is the number of inches to the tenth of an inch. So if you think by the end of February your city will receive 6.7 inches, send us that info.
Right.
And if you want to look at historical information, go to the internet and you can check out what the 1998 El Nino delivered to your city. And maybe it's going to be more, maybe it's going to be less. We are not sure, but we're looking for your entries.
Yep, and you'll win a nice certificate for dinner, and depending on where you live, we will give you something else to go have the rest of the night with, so you'll have fun. Hey, Mike, I know you're good at statistics and everything, and I don't mean to be funny on statistics, because you and I both know there's lies, damn lies, and then statistics. But do you know, in the city where you live, which I won't mention so everybody knows where you are, in January of 2015, do you know the total percentage of precipitation, or actually the total inches that you had last year?
In Southern California?
No, at by your house, in your city.
Oh, by my house.
But I'm not mentioning the city.
I don't know, but I could guess.
No, go ahead.
You want me to guess?
Yeah, I'll get you gifts.
So,
you're up for a gift. You're up for a gift card right now. So go ahead.
January 2015, for the whole month of January 2015, huh?
Yep.
Oh my gosh! I'm going to say we get about 17 inches for the whole year. There was a drought last year. It was very dry in January, so I'm going to say maybe 3/4 of an inch.
You're a little off. 1.67.
That's what I was going to say. And I changed my mind.
We'll still give you the certificate.
Oh, what a guy.
And you know the driest year in January that you guys had? I mean, I don't expect you to know that off the top of your head because I had to look it up. 1972. 0.
Wow.
I was just curious, looking up that stuff. I was trying to see if I could trick you, but you're pretty smart. So.
Well, I did not. Well, let's see, where was I? Oh, it was in my second year of college back in 1972.
We weren't even thinking of water.
I'd never visited Glendora at that point in time in my life.
Well, things change. We all know. we all are where we are, but we never knew we would be here. So.
That's right. That's right.
Well, anyway, you had mentioned we have a great guest tonight. He was part of a show we had a couple weeks ago, but we had not a mix-up. Well, you can call it a mix-up. We had both this gentleman who we had pre-recorded, and then we had a live guest who was supposed to be first and came in late, and we had to stop the interview with Denny. So we're going to play that again. So just out of courtesy, and we do appreciate Denny took the time to be a guest on our show. So let's go to the interview.
And the information he shares with us with respect to the landscape industry and what he's seen change throughout the years, very fascinating. So I'm going to be listening intently.
Yeah, he's what we call the godfather of irrigation industry. So let's go to our conversation with Denny.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We appreciate you coming to join us.
So, I just got to add that I've never known anyone who is more involved in connected, discussing with decision makers that are very significant within the green industry. I mean, whether it's irrigation or power equipment, contractors, distributors. I don't know of anyone who is on a first-name basis with so many individuals that that really are the top of their segments within the industry. So when we're talking to Danny and he's answering questions, it's based on knowledge that really cannot be obtained anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, he opens doors where we can't.
And he's just very knowledgeable about what's going on, and because he gets so much input and discusses with such decision makers that And we're going to ask some questions about the drought. We're going to ask some questions about business. This is going to be pretty significant. So I'm excited about this opportunity to hear directly from an individual who is very well respected within this entire green industry.
Yeah, it's about time. So anyway, Danny, for our listening audience, how, when, and why did you get started in this irrigation and green industry business? What made you do it?
Well, we're going to go back a long time from that.
Okay.
And basically, what happened was I'm going to say in the early 60s, and I just gave away my age, right? But in the early 60s...
You're young, 29.
I got involved in the lawn care business. There was a brand new company starting. It was back east, and they were offering a lawn care service to homeowners. I didn't even own a house at that point, but I spent the entire summer of that year going around and learning about lawn care and people's wants and dislikes about taking care of their lawns. And that really started me in this business. I was doing it as a part-time situation, and my other job got in the way, so to speak. I was promoted to an executive position with the company I was with, and I just put this lawn care stuff on hold for a few years. In 1966, I moved down here to California, Southern California, and I bought a house a year later, and I'm looking at what people call the lawn, and it was all full of weeds. And I started to go to the stores to look around how I'm going to make this a lawn. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that this lawn care company, back 5 years ago, would be a perfect situation for me. So I called the president of the company. It had just become a public company then. And I got a master franchise for the entire state of California. And I opened up shop in the San Fernando Valley, and I was known as Lawn-O-Mat of San Fernando Valley. I sold about 3, maybe 5 franchises to other parts of Southern California. And we were in the lawn care business. So I've been involved in turf since really 1966. It was really very interesting back then. I got a landscape contractor's license because if you do any job over $200, you must be licensed by the state of California. Also, in those years, I got my pest control advisor's license, because if I was going to train franchisees under my wing to use certain chemicals, they had just passed a law that if you're going to advise them, you needed an advisor's license. So I got that license, and I'm raring to go. We did that until 1977, and being a landscape contractor is a very, very tough job. It's hard work, and I don't even think that landscape contractors themselves appreciate the knowledge that they need to have and do have, and the disciplines that they cross. If you were in the...
Danny, I've got to just ask you a quick question, because you talked about lawn care there in when you moved to California. So did you ever hear of a turf removal program back in those days?
No. No such animal. What everybody wanted to do is they wanted to take this semi-arid climate that we lived in and make it green so they could have a place where their kids can play that would help cool down the surroundings of their home, that help generate oxygen to cleanse the atmosphere. It was just the opposite of turf removal. It was adding turf, and they were adding turf at a very rapid rate. In fact, back then, and I'm not so sure today, turf is the largest cash crop in the United States.
Wow.
Maybe with the exception of corn, which they're now using for ethanol. But in those days, turf was the largest cash crop in the United States. Now, it's around everybody's home, so it's in small pieces. But if you put all that acreage together, it's a very substantial number. And so, here I am going into the landscape business, if you will, and I got an appreciation of that landscape contractor because, as I was saying before, if you were a plumber, you learn how to put pipe together, and you do that day in and day out. If you're a roofer, you learn the different types of roofs to put on, and that's fine. If you're an electrician, you learn how to pull wire and hook it up to a 110 or a 220 line. The landscape contractor crosses so many disciplines. He has to have a knowledge of grading. He has to have a knowledge of draining. He has to have a knowledge of plant material, southern exposure, northern exposure, what's susceptible to various insects and diseases, and how to treat them. He has to have a knowledge of the trees, southern exposure, northern exposure, which will do well, and again, how to treat diseases and pest problems. He's got to have a knowledge of turf. He's got to have a knowledge of hardscapes, because that's coming in very strong these days. He should have a knowledge of softscapes. He has to have a knowledge of lighting, so he learns a little bit about electrical. He has to have a knowledge of the irrigation system, how to put it in, how to install it. And so,
and evapotranspir, and he's got to know about evapotranspiration rates now because of the different state regulations. So he's got to be able to do math,
right,
to schedule.
So he underestimates himself,
right.
And
it's more than knowing how to use a shovel.
Oh, it's so much more, But it's all of these different disciplines and different trades that he crosses that he needs to know about, So that's a very important factor. And that's the way it works to this day. So,
well, how did you get into the magazine publishing business?
That was very interesting. What happened back in 1977, I started looking into landscaping in a bigger way than just lawn care. And I found that there were basically two publications in the United States. Both of them were back in the Midwest. Neither one of them addressed any problems about irrigation, and they didn't address problems what happens in the state of California. What I began to realize then was that as California moves, so does the rest of the country. When it comes to landscaping, we really set the tone. The new trend today is outdoor living with permeable pavers and barbecues and landscape lighting. And that's happening in other parts of the country, but it really starts out here. If governmental agencies are thinking of outlawing certain chemicals, it all starts in California, and the rest of the country follows. So, when it comes to landscaping and creativity, we're the leaders. We set the tone. And this is why this turf removal program is so disturbing,
Right. Well, just so our listeners know, your publication, Irrigation and Green Industry, is the official publication of the Irrigation Association. So that's something nice for people to know about. So speaking of what we just talked about, as you mentioned, the turf, from your investigations, and you got a great staff on this, what do you think about California's current drought?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess with respect to our industry,
right.
And
as a homeowner yourself.
It's very interesting when we've been in this industry observing drought conditions. We're now well into our fourth year. We should be starting the fifth year shortly. So we've been watching it and seeing where it goes. And when our illustrious governor decided early in the spring to make the statements that he made, I think he threw a monkey wrench into this whole piece of machinery that was working to a point that I guess it holds true that, self-sensationalism. I mean, I've never heard of brown is the new green. And as I drive by various neighborhoods and I see that they've let their lawns go to pot, or they've taken it out and put in crushed rock and basically little tiny drought-tolerant plants that you can't even see unless you're looking for it closely. It's not a pretty sight. They made it a concrete jungle. They just added more heat affecting material to the surrounding areas. Was it necessary? Absolutely not. Is it necessary? Absolutely not.
Well, I heard an interesting statistic that said, with close to $500 million invested by water agencies and the California state government to incentivize the turf removal, let's just say that they removed 1 million square feet of turf. Well, University of Missouri had a study that showed that 2,500 square feet of turf would supply enough oxygen for a family of 4 for a year. So basically, by removing 1 million square feet, we've basically removed oxygen-producing source for 40,000 families or 160,000 individuals. Now, if you were going to, in my mind, if you were going to do something that significant to the environment, you'd think there might be some need for overview before you just go ahead and do that. Not to mention the effect on soils, runoff, lack of good filtration for water to go back into the aquifer. So
temperature.
Yeah, and I think there's now some scientific evidence by 2 gentlemen out of the University of Riverside that is indicating that there was a better way to save water without having to destroy that much turf, and hopefully.
But it's more than the turf, Mike. It has to do with the plants. It has to do with the trees. When you moved into your first home, if it was a brand new house with limited funds, you turned around and you put in 15-gallon or 20-gallon trees, and you've cultivated them over all of these 20 years.
Yep.
They've now grown to 60 or 70 feet or higher, and they have a decent-sized caliper range. And these trees are dying by the millions because of this. So how do you, number one, put a value on 20 years of tender care to make these trees grow, to give you the shade that you want? And what does it cost to replace these trees? You can't buy them at a reasonable price. So if you're going to replace the tree and go back and put in those 20-gallon trees, at my age, I'm not going to live to see them grow to where they are today. So it's more than just the turf, and that's what bothers me. What concerns me more than anything else, and this Dan Hodel, who is with the University of California Cooperative Extension Service, says, and I'll quote, "My concern with the way the state imposed watering restrictions is that they were made without any knowledge of how plants grow, how they interact with the soil, and how water moves into the soil, and how the soil holds water." He goes on to say, we can have or retain our landscapes and receive the benefits they provide if we simply watered in a more precise or judicious manner. And we have the research to support that position.
That's pretty powerful.
So the concern is, he goes on later on in this piece about how much water are we really talking about to begin with. And I always like to refer to when somebody says, well, they say that 40 to 60% of the water you use in your home is used in the landscapes. First of all, I want to know who they are. I haven't found out they. But if that's the right number, okay, it is also said, they also say, that 6% of the water used in our environment is used in your home. If we then say that 50% of that water that's used in your home is going to your landscapes, we're now talking about 3% of the entire water needs for this particular city, municipality, or area that you live in. So now we have this 3% of this water that we're putting all of this energy in. We're spending millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to save 3%. And of the 3%, if that's used, if they're asking us to cut back 25%, I'll go one better. I'll say we should cut back 50%. So if we cut back 50% of the 3%, you're talking about saving 1.5% of the water consumed in your area. Are you kidding me? Is it really that necessary to kill all the trees and live in a desert environment to save 1% or 1.5%?
I mean, this coincides with I think a article from Cato Institute that was saying, rather than people just in California kowtowing to the requirement to reduce usage, we ought to be asking as citizens or residents of California, says, well, we've been through droughts before. Why haven't we added more above ground, below ground storage? Why haven't we made more progress on recycling water? Because there are places in other parts of the world where those are being used much more extensively, and they don't have the water shortages. And I'm talking about desert areas like in the Middle East.
Rob and Mike, the future from where I sit is so exciting. I mean, I can't wait to get to that next move, because what we did here was such a travesty. What a mistake. And we're going to find out in a very short period of time, if El Nino comes and the flooding takes place, that whatever was done for naught, and once the drought is broken, everybody will have forgotten about it. And will have forgotten about the damage that we did and go back to their normal way of life. The truth of the matter is, it's not the drought that I'm really concerned about. I'm more concerned about the population in the United States. And let's go back to the 1940s or early 50s. We had a population of 150 million strong, and we used water like it was going out of style, and we had no problems replenishing it. Fast forward to today, we're a population of 325 million and growing. We're using the water from the same sources we had before because we haven't found any new sources of water, with the exception is that we've paved and made concrete jungles out of a lot of the suburbs, and so we don't allow the water, the weight that we don't need, to trickle back down and recharge the aquifers as quickly as they've done before. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the concern is that as this population grows and we use more water from the same sources, how are we going to recharge these aquifers? In Nebraska, where they're using water like it's going out of style to grow much more corn than anybody needs to consume, just for the ethanol that they can squeeze out of it, it was predicted that by 2040 or 2030, they'll be out of water. And that's the thing that's scary. But the other side of the coin is there is and there are options to take this and turn it around. And you can have your cake and eat it because we don't consume as much water as people think we do when you look at the total picture of water used. And I go back to the Mideast, and I especially go to Israel, where they grow all their agricultural crops without one drop of potable water. Everything is done with desalination and with water reuse. So water reuse is going to be the new buzzword around. And
Mike was just talking about an author named Seth Siegel, who had written a book, Let There Be Water, and did a study on the water system in Israel. In fact, we contacted his office today to see if he'd come on the show and talk a little about that. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it was smart for California decision makers to go to Australia and ask water experts there, hey, how did you handle a 12-year drought? Right. But based on what you said and this book that we've discovered, maybe they need to take a trip to Israel and learn how they've been handling providing water, I read, for up to 12 million people. Not only providing enough water for Israeli citizens, but for surrounding countries. They now are an exporter of water resources, so it is pretty amazing.
The whole thing is, here we are in this country with resources available to us that we haven't even started to think of using, especially the water agencies around. And it just is very disconcerting that, it's available, but, they haven't done the research. The research from the universities are there. And, for example, in New Mexico, Santa Fe, New Mexico, you cannot build a new private single-family home unless you put in a rainwater harvesting system to recapture that water.
That wouldn't do real well here in California.
It would do great, because if you get your average 9 inches of rain, whatever you get, you're going to save that much. And Northern California, which doesn't have any reservoirs to speak of, it would be perfect, because they average, I think, 20 inches of rain a year. So you could recapture a lot of water to be used somewhere down the road. And the other thing is taking the water that we've used once and filtering it and cleaning it a little bit and being able to reuse it again in the landscape environment, in flushing the toilets that you don't have to use potable water for. This is the excitement that I see coming to us for the future.
Yeah, there's a new company that Mike and I talked to called eNexus Water.
Yes.
And they have a relationship. They started putting in test homes at 52 homes with KB Homes.
Very familiar with it.
Yeah, and we had their chairman on our show as well, and Ralph Petroff. And, it was really exciting about what they're doing. And, you start seeing builders, we had a lot of builders on the show, too, talking about, this new paradigm shift where everybody, as you put it, when you buy your first home, and even second or third or whatever, usually that's still your biggest monthly nut to pay off every single month. And a lot of builders now are starting to put things in that help you manage your home better and lower costs with all the energy-saving devices, all the water-saving devices, things of that sort. So I think that's going to be a good marketing deal. They have to pick up on that and say, hey, you can have your home, but we'll show you how to run it for less money. And still have nice-looking lawns, and you can still take your showers and still do this, but you got to use all this new stuff: Energy Star, WaterSense. That's the new paradigm shift.
Let's sum it up. This is the near future. This is not a dream. So we have these windmills, these wind farms that generate energy through the wind, and there's a place in Maine or New Hampshire that has a wind farm a mile out in the ocean. So picture, if you will, and desalinization plants are very, very expensive. And the reason why they're expensive is because they have these turbines that spin the water so quickly and separates the sand from the water. But the cost of energy to do that is very, very costly. They're building one is in San Diego now. I think they're building another one in San Onofre. So imagine if you put a wind farm a mile out in the ocean where they get plenty of wind anyway, and dedicated those wind farms only to using that energy from there to spin the turbines at a desalinization plant, your energy cost or your cost of that water would be much lower than it is today, so it would make it affordable and economical to start building desal plants, especially all around the coast. And you can use that desal water, and you could reuse the potable water once or twice, and you could use the recapture water from the rain, and all of a sudden you're going to find that you're going to have lots of secondary and tertiary areas that you can get water that you don't have to use that potable water for all of these excess areas like watering your landscape or flushing the toilets or a myriad of other things. That's the excitement that I see. And when I look at that, why did we have to tear out the turf?
Yeah.
It was really, from some perspective, a knee-jerk reaction because and again, what you said, for 1.5% water savings overall.
And that 1.5%, you could cut that down even more because our industry has been staying on top of the learning curve and the cutting edge, and developing low precipitation sprinkler heads, and developing all these various smart water controllers, and other water conserving
drip irrigation and all that.
I mean, but people go crazy. I think in Santa Monica, they will no longer allow you to use any kind of sprinkler heads other than drip. Is that ridiculous? The drip is fine and it does a pretty good job, but it's not the cure-all. It's not the answer. The one size fits all.
It really takes out of the professional's hand a set of tools that they ought to be able to choose for the appropriate application, and that's, I think, something that's, short-sighted. So we'll see what happens there. But you know what, Denny? I want to nominate you for be on the State Water Resources Control Board to get not only knowledge and perspective there, but some good common sense. So anyway, we want to thank you so much we got to do this again because I think we just barely scratched the surface in terms of what you know and about this industry. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to share your perspective and your knowledge with us and with our audience.
We certainly appreciate it, and Mike's right. When you take science and common sense and put it together, you get a good result instead of the ready
and some venture capital.
Yeah, instead of ready, fire, aim, and these, as Mike said, the knee-jerk reactions. So, again, we thank you very much for joining us on the show, Denny, and we will get back with you and have you back on the show again.
I enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
Take care.
Well, that was really interesting listening to Denny.
He is a great guy, very knowledgeable and passionate, really.
Absolutely. Hey, just to remind everybody to call in to speak with us. It's 909-888-5222 and 888-909-1050. And 1050 is the station on AM and 106.5 FM. So let's take a little break. We'll be back in a second. Got some other news to give you and some more chatter, and stay around.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog. Or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Are your monthly water bills draining your wallet? Then you need Valley Soil, your one-stop expert on water conservation to save you water, time, and most of all, money. With over 35 years of experience, Valley Soil has implemented numerous conservation programs for water districts throughout California. They have performed over 12,000 water audits and installed over 300,000 smart irrigation products for municipalities, residential, and commercial property owners, saving over 293 million gallons of water each year. That's enough to fill 15,000 swimming pools. Their services also include indoor water audits, leak detection, retrofits, reclaimed water systems, and managed water use and data tracking. As certified irrigation auditors and a state-licensed landscape contractor, you can trust them to be knowledgeable about the services you need, products they install, and best practices in water conservation. For an individualized water solution for you, contact them today at 888-268-1009. That's 888-268-1009 or valleysoil.com. Remember, when it comes to innovative ideas to save water, Valley Soil never lets you run dry.
Hey, welcome back to the Waterzone on KCEA 1050 AA with Mike and Rob, and we're happy you're all here listening in. And just want to announce some upcoming guests that we're pretty excited about. We're going to have back, because he got cut off by the phone system last time, so we're bringing him back, Paul Ulrich, Dr. Ulrich, and he's a meteorologist and a pretty good one. He's going to really tell us about El Nino. We started getting into a good discussion, and then the phone went dead. And so we feel bad about that, so we want to bring him back to finish that. Of good news, we got a confirmation of California's Secretary of Natural Resources, John Laird. He's in charge of the Department of Natural Resources, and also the Department of Water Resources reports up through him. So he's going to be on and talking about his activities. Consulate General of Israel, David Siegel, he's going to be on the show talking about what they did in Israel for water and the partnerships, most likely, or most importantly, we want them to tell about the partnerships they established here in California with Governor Brown and the city of San Diego, the city of Los Angeles, and some of the things that they're doing for collaboration, which I think is really important. We have Tim Quinn. I know Mike knows him real well. He's the executive director of the Association of California Water Agencies. And one of our big guests coming in is, and we just He's going to do it. We just got to get confirmation he travels. This guy's really busy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so we're very excited about that. And then we're going to have a new segment starting in 2 weeks, but we're going to have one of the gentlemen here to introduce himself with us. And that segment is going to be called DIY Sprinkler Guy, and we'll get more into that next week. But let's go back to some news and what's happening around California about water, Mike.
Well,
it's all yours.
Well, it's good to know that we are at average snowpack around the areas, the region that feeds the Colorado River. And that's very important because that water from the Colorado River serves, get ready for this, 40 million people and 6,300 square miles of farmland in Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. And this past 2015, I think the Interior Department came within, a week of declaring an emergency because the flows in the Colorado River had dropped such that Lake Powell was expected to fall below the trigger point that says, okay, everybody gets a cut. And that didn't happen because remember those rains we had, I think, in May or June of last year? That saved our water bacon. And
nice way to put that.
That's right. And now we see the snowpack is in good shape, and that's so critical because Southern California relies on water from the Colorado River as well as from Northern California. So
what do you think the odds in Vegas is going to be for the El Nino to really hit? What are the bet makers calling this thing?
Oh man, I think it's probably 90% sure thing.
Because I know we haven't seen. I mean, a couple weeks ago we saw a day or two, and then sporadic little rains.
Well, interesting you should say that because in Southern California, what you just said is absolutely true. We're below normal.
But where it's most important is
Northern California.
Absolutely.
And remember what we said was El Nino brings with it warmer weather. And the fear was that the warmer weather of El Nino would reduce the amount of snow that was falling in Northern California. And that if it fell as rain into the Sierras, we were still going to be in a problem. But, it's going to be interesting because January 17th, 2014 is when Governor Brown declared a drought emergency in the state of California. That declaration still is in effect. Yep. So at what point, what facts will have to be presented to the state of California for it to say we are no longer in a drought emergency?
I think it's like the budget. They want to pocket some away for a rainy day, excuse the pun, but they want to bank on having more. I think before they cut, at least they'd be smart if they wait until they have a little bit more than they think they should have just to be safe.
Well, if we see 150% of the average snowpack and 130% of average rainfall up in Northern California, it's expected that the various Northern California reservoirs will fill. And so the question will become, if people see these full reservoirs again, will the inclination be to say, well, okay, now the drought's over? But there's one important thing, like icebergs?
Yes.
Right?
There's more underneath than on the top.
Exactly. And unfortunately, we've depleted our aquifers for the last 4 years to such an extent that the above average rain and the above average snow is going to be insufficient to recharge those aquifers to the level that it was at, or that the level that the aquifers were at prior to the beginning of this 4-year drought.
And isn't there a danger with all the water that was pumped out of the aquifers of the grounds now becoming more fragile and caving in?
Well, they say that you can never put back as much water, even if you had it available, you can never put back as much as you took out because of the structural changes to the walls of the aquifer into the bottom. But that gets into some pretty interesting.
I should get a geologist on the show.
Hey, that's right. That. Make some. But we're so far away from even getting them half full that we do need that rain. The interesting thing, I heard a Department of Water Resource representative say, the really bizarre thing is that we're going to be talking about mudslides in February and the continued drought in July. I mean, it's going to be that much of a juxtaposition. So it's interesting, though, because we've had droughts before in California. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And so at each time there was a drought, it ended. And there was an interesting article about, what had to happen for those things, for the drought to be officially over. And they looked at the 1938 drought, the 78 and 93, and in each case, the Sierra snowpack was roughly 150% of historic average, and that's a number that you and I have talked about before. And precipitation levels at 8 key weather stations in Northern California, which feed the Shasta, Oroville, and Folsom reservoirs, were between 130 and 150%. We're expecting to get that kind of precipitation and snowpack from this El Nino.
Yep, that's what they say.
But the problem, remember last year there was the ridiculously resilient ridge, high-pressure ridge? Well, that's what's keeping El Nino from dropping its much-needed water in Southern California. So if that continued, remember that big fight between Godzilla, the El Nino Godzilla, and the blob, which is, remember the blob was the resilient ridge of high pressure. Yep. So, it's we don't know. We don't know when that's going to happen, but stay tuned, because not only do we not know if we're going to be out of the drought until we get to April 1st and we can tell what the status of the snowpack is in the northern Sierras, but that's the same month that we have to assess the snowpack around the Colorado River, in other words, the Colorado River Basin. That's when we can tell whether we're going to have sufficient water flowing from the melting snow to deliver the much-needed water to the Colorado River. So it's not over, and you need to really be aware that we need to continue to conserve. We need to continue to be respectful of our water, even though it's cool. I mean, everybody should really have their irrigation systems off, and it's important to keep them off as long as possible during these cool winter months. And if you've got pots or containers, you got to water those by hand. That's what I would recommend. So, hey, did we get a phone call?
Hello?
Hello. Yes, this is the Waterzone with Mike and Rob.
This is Mike?
It sure is. Hey, wait a second. Your voice sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, this is Fred. You remember me?
I do.
I'm calling you to thank you for the gift card you sent me and my family for dinner last month. We surely enjoyed it.
Oh, excellent. So, where did you end up going?
We don't get out for lunch much these days.
Yeah. Well, but...
Well, I want you to know we packed up the six kids. We did go down into 7-Eleven. We got them corny doggies, the bag of Doritos, and 3 big cherry Slurpees. They were really good. It was the best meal we had in a long time.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I can tell you that, I think there are hot dogs at those 7-Elevens, aren't there?
I think so, but my kids like the corny dogs. They're good.
Well, yeah.
But I can tell you, but I did something good, though, with the rest of the money left over.
Yeah?
I went to that place at Hydroscape and bought me some of them Toro Precision Nozzles, and I put them on my sprinklers on the side patch, and they sure look beautiful.
Oh, excellent. Well, I got to ask you, did you get the ones with the female threads or the male threads, or do you remember? That's kind of a technical detail but if you...
I bought it to those guys. Those guys are pretty smart. They told me what I needed. I took one of those big spray things in the ground, unscrewed it, brought it to them. But you know what's really funny is that my neighbor George, he keeps telling me that my lawn looks really good. And he says that the sprinklers aren't spraying onto his sidewalks and driveways no more.
Well, that's because the precision spray nozzles uses a unique patented oscillating stream technology for very good, well-defined edges and lower trajectory. So the water goes where you want it to go. So congratulations. I mean, it really shows that anyone can take advantage of those high-efficiency precision spray nozzles.
Shazam. He doesn't understand why his water bill is going higher since he reduced his water and his times on his controller. But I guess I shouldn't tell him that I hook up my irrigation pipes to his water spigot every night. I just keep it secret.
Well, have you ever heard of the 10th commandment? Or no, not the 10th commandment. Have you ever heard of the 10 commandments, I should say?
No, I got to go. My wife's calling me for dinner, so I'll talk to you later.
All right. Well, listen, you keep watering efficiently and keep your sprinklers off, okay? Because it is cool. It's a winter, and you want to save as much water as possible. Hey, thanks much, Fred. Appreciate that. Well, good grief. I couldn't believe it. Rob, you took off to the bathroom again. What the heck?
I had to go.
Hey.
You
so
talk about water. You know what that does.
That's right. But, hey, Fred called back, and it was fun talking to him. He got some corn dogs at the 7-Eleven, and I couldn't even believe it.
Go do that.
Hey, let's go do that. Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody, for listening in on Waterzone, KCA. Mike and Robin, we'll see you next week. You all have a good, wet winter.
Absolutely, and keep those sprinklers off, all right?
This is 1050 AM, KCAA Loma Linda, and 106.5 FM, Yucaipa.
Call the dogs and put out the fire. This is Baxter Black with a little peek at Dr. Fossey from South Africa. What makes America the most productive, generous country on earth? Well, it's ordinary people like us working together to achieve extraordinary things. B&W builds the trailer hitches that hook the loads that haul the grain, the coal, the cattle, cotton, gas, horses, and RVs that keep America on the road. Quality made, employee-owned, and customer-tuned. B&W trailer hitches, working together to keep America proud. I told Dr. Fossey of